Hearing to order. Today is May 22nd, 2024, and the time is 9:30 a.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, we have 4 items on the agenda today. I would like to recognize our zoning staff to introduce the first case.
Good morning, Commissioners. Michael Jacob, Deputy County Attorney. I just wanted to step up here for your 4th item on the agenda, the Calusa 80 case, the comp plan cases CPA 2022-00017 and 00018. The applicant has requested a continuance, and we are requesting a continuance indefinitely. They will bring it back. It will be re-advertised.
All right, thank you. You want to go ahead and introduce item number 2? Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Adam Mendez with the Community Development Zoning Section, and this first item before you is in reference to the Kelly Tractor IPD project DCI 2023-00046. The subject property is a 58-acre industrial subdivision, generally north of Luckett Road and east of I-75. The property is located in the industrial interchange future land use category, and it's currently zoned industrial plan development. The request is to amend this industrial plan development to incorporate a sign deviation on lot number 1 here on the northwest corner of the subdivision to incorporate increased sign height for project signage facing I-75. If approved, the deviation will permit a pylon sign at a height of 60 feet with increased sign area. The hearing examiner's recommendation is approval with conditions. There were no hearing participants of record, and staff and the applicant are available if there's any questions.
Okay, does the board have any questions?
I'll move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve from Commissioner Hammond, a second from Commissioner Sandelli. Okay, I'll open for public comment. Any there was no public record. I'm sorry, I just seen it. Yeah, there's no participants of a record. So we have a motion to approve the applicant from the motion from Commissioner Hammond, a second from Commissioner Sandelli. Do we have any objections? No objections. Item moves 5-0. Please introduce item number 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next item before you is in reference to Kelly Road RPD DCI 2022-00044. The subject property is approximately 4.6 acres. You can see here located near the Pine Ridge Road and Kelly Road intersection. The property is located in the central urban future land use category, and the zoning is currently residential multifamily, RM10. The request is to rezone this property from RM10, residential multifamily, to residential plan development to permit 46 standard residential multifamily units with the possibility of 23 bonus density units through the Lee County Affordable Housing Bonus Density Program. The hearing examiner's recommendation is approval with conditions, and there are 10 participants of record in this case. Staff and the applicant are available for any questions.
Any questions for staff at this time?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
I saw we're rezoning from residential multifamily to residential plan development. So both of them permit multifamily. Why do the rezoning?
That's correct. So the rezoning is due to, if you look at the master concept plan, is due to the site constraints with the old borrow pit and the IDD canal easement in the front of the property. Deviations were necessary to permit a flexible development program to facilitate the most optimal use of this property. So the applicant chose the plan development process for its design flexibility, but it also allows the county the opportunity to provide conditions, unlike the current RM10 zoning district, which just relies on the land development code generally.
Okay, thanks very much.
Any other questions from staff?
I have a question.
Yes.
How many units are they planning on putting here? It looks like it's going to be apartments. Is it 2-story?
There are three-story buildings. Those are the buildings closest to the west boundary near the Beach Walk Isle subdivision. There's one 4-story building. That's the building number 2, which is furthest. See if I can mark on this. This is building number 4. That is proposed at 4 stories, 45 feet high. It's worth noting that the adjacent Beach Walk Isle subdivision is limited to a 35-foot height. maximum building height for their subdivision.
So they're single-family, two-story residential, single-family homes next door to them?
Yes.
20 feet away, okay.
Any further question? Okay, does the applicant wish to make a presentation at this time?
Good morning, Board of County Commissioners. My name is Veronica Martin, Senior Planner with TDM Consulting. I am representing the applicant, Nova Construction Group, LLC. Both staff and the hearing examiner did recommend approval of this rezoning request with conditions. The hearing examiner summary states that the conditions of approval do mitigate off-site impacts by requiring a concrete masonry wall, restricting building orientation, exterior stairwells and balconies, providing on-site amenities, and distancing dumpsters from single-family neighbors. I do have a full PowerPoint presentation. I would like to reserve the opportunity to address any public hearing comments at the end of that session.
Okay.
And I can answer, of course, any commissioner questions that may come up.
Okay, any questions for the applicant? No questions? Okay. There are 10 participants of record. I will call you up. Please, when you come up, please don't touch the mic. You have, the lights will turn green, or when it gets to be yellow, that means you have 1 minute left. So when it turns red, your time is up, and we'll call up the next applicant, or the next speaker. First speaker will be Shannon Bell.
Thank you for hearing my public comment today. A lot of my neighbors have gone home already, so I'm probably going to be speaking for a lot of them, gone home being up north to their, their dwellings in the other part of the country. But right now, our biggest concern, obviously, is the water and what's going to be happening because with Ian, with Irma, and even with the storm that was on the west coast of the Gulf, there was a lot. I think it was Harvey. That whole lot behind us was flooded, and we have not seen any water in our neighborhood until after Channelside, which is a big apartment complex beside us that was built in an old folks home, which is down. So now we get water in our streets. And if you remember how much water we received with Ian, it was pretty substantial. And so once all of that, I know that it'll have to go through some more. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. We'll have to go through more where all the water's going to go. I'm just worried it's all going to come in my backyard because it's right next to where we're at. So my biggest concern is where's the water drainage going to go, since all that land is going to be covered now with parking lot and buildings. The other piece of thing that kind of makes me nervous, is where is the since we're going to be building 4-story buildings and 3-story buildings, how is the helicopters going to be going to the helipad there? Because we did have, after Ian, we actually had a helicopter crash that was right after there too. And so if that's going to have to fly over our homes, do we necessarily, how is that going to, so I'd like a safety study to be done in order to know, can that helicopter land safely right there on the helipad? So, and the other things that I'm kind of worried about is the light pollution from the 3-story buildings going right into my backyard, essentially. And, are the balconies going to be right facing my backyard as well? Because I am against one of the parking lots that they're at there. So thank you for listening to what I have to say. Sorry, I was a little bit nervous. I wasn't ready to go first. But essentially that's, my biggest concern is where's all that water going to drain to? And I was flooded, with some of the big storms that come through, and my property value is only as good as, how it's going to handle throughout the storms and stuff. So that's essentially what I would like to see done. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Up next will be Mary Buckley. Okay, Mary's not here. All right, next will be Carl Chacona. Carl's not here. Domingos Loreno. No. John O'Brien. Donna Ray. Thomas Steele. Peter Strahl. Mary Tamalia. Come on up, Mary.
As you can tell, a lot of people went north already. Okay. I live on Beachcomber Ave,
Reset.
lot number 76, which is the specific lot on Beachcomber Ave where the land narrows the most to this project being discussed today. I will also have a 24-hour, 7-day-week view of these future apartment buildings, looming over my backyard and closest to the border of the properties. This property, the Kelly Road RPD, was originally purchased many years ago, with the owners having full knowledge of the unusual shape, in addition to the 2 drainage lakes. The zoning meeting reflected that one of these lakes would be made smaller so that they could enhance their building to increase more units to be built in addition to parking. I read the report with the examiner's recommendations, and it reflected that everything the builder and the civil engineers asked for was recommended for approval, with just a few minor changes, as many of the Beach Walk Isles owners voiced opposition of certain things. I realize that the drainage issue will be thoroughly investigated. However, I am more than deeply concerned about flooding, as these drainage lakes and reducing the size will not benefit. They will not be a benefit for future flooding issues. I understand that the builder will most likely build up the land for these buildings, but this will be of no value to me, as the water from hurricane season and tropical storms will still need to be directed somewhere. My question is, where will the water be directed to? What happens to the additional water that the drainage lake was supposed to hold? I stayed and went through Hurricane Ian, and I can tell you with all certainty that this property did indeed flood, even with the 2 drainage lakes, in addition to previous hurricanes. Thank the good Lord above that that flooding did not encroach on our properties, and we did not have damage from the hurricanes due to flooding. I would strongly suggest that a drainage pipe within the range of 24 to 36 inches be placed between the beachcomber fence and the masonry wall that will be erected on the western boundary to assist in having appropriate drainage, so we will have some sort of confidence that the drainage of stormwater will not be a problem to us and our neighborhood. Also, with the erection of a masonry wall that was discussed and recommended by the Lee County hearing examiner, it was stated that there would be foliage and trees planted between the wall and our properties. That is all fine and dandy. However, who will maintain these plantings? Will the apartment property include this area in their weekly, bi-weekly, monthly landscaping duties? Will this area be maintained on a regular basis by the owners or future owners if that property is sold years down the road? If this area is not maintained and kept up to date, it will be an eyesore in addition to the apartment buildings that we have to look at. As stated in the hearing examiner's standard of review, it requires a finding that the deviations, 1, enhance achievement of objectives of the plan development, and 2, protect the public health, safety, and welfare. I would indeed like my welfare protected, and I do not feel that I'm asking for anything above and beyond what is really necessary and vitally important. There's a big gap of property.
Ma'am, your time is up. But
Okay.
I actually gave you extra time because I was hoping you would finish, but
Thank
it's
you.
up. So, but thank you.
Okay.
I thank you for your comments. Karen Walmart? Not here. Okay, that concludes the speakers. Does the applicant wish to come up and address the concerns of the participants?
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to address public concerns. I'm going to try to address each one that was raised. And I'm going to start with what the current zoning district of RM10 permits by right. It currently permits a 3-story building with a maximum height of 35 feet. So the buildings that we're proposing that are three stories high and 35 feet are already permitted in the RM10 zoning district. We're only proposing one building that exceeds that, and that is a 4-story building that is 45 feet high in the northeast corner that is adjacent to commercial development. The balconies and stairwells are a condition of approval that was proposed by staff and accepted by the applicant, that building number 1 will not have balconies and stairwells on the west elevation or the south elevation, so that the residents cannot encroach into the privacy of the property owners to the west on Beach Walk Isle. So the fact that this is a residential plan development does allow the hearing examiner and the Board of County Commissioners to place conditions on approval, which the current zoning district does not permit. So this gives the opportunity for the Board of County Commissioners to, again, place conditions. Maintenance of landscaping. Of course, this will have a property owners association in association with this development, and they will, of course, maintain landscaping. Vegetation is required to be placed on the residential side of the masonry wall. Drainage. When we go through the development order process, the applicant will be required to demonstrate that it meets the requirements of Lee County and the South Florida Water Management District. There are specific requirements for a 25-year storm, a 50-year storm, and a 100-year storm. And I will have to say our engineer of record, who is a licensed professional engineer, takes great pride in the fact that he can eliminate flooding on not only the properties that he designs and builds, but the ones adjacent to that. And when we have storms, he drives around to those properties, making sure that his stormwater system is working as it should. Part of the west buffer does include enhanced vegetation. We did vacate the roadway easement that was located along the west property line. So that entire west property line will have a 15-foot wide buffer with an 8-foot high solid masonry wall. And again, it will have enhanced vegetation. Helicopter path. We will be required to get a tall structures permit if this property is within the helicopter flight path. Light pollution, again, will be required to follow the requirements of the Land Development Code at the time of development order permitting. I believe I've answered all the public comment questions. If the board has any questions, I can answer those.
Okay. Commissioner Pendergrass.
It's kind of hard to tell in the drawings. On the western portion of the property, where I assume that's parking spaces there, how much of a buffer is between the parking spaces and the buffer of the property? And you said there's going to be a wall constructed. How tall is that wall?
The wall is 8 feet high.
Okay.
And it can be 8 foot high, a solid wall, or 8 feet high with a berm wall.
On the eastern portion, I know the property. I've been there a couple of years ago because of prior code cases, the use of the property on the people, the beachcombers there was upper primaries there was a lot. The property was work being done on it without permits. But anyway,
Correct.
It's very small.
Yes.
You know, the property, and are they having to fill in the lake at all to get that bank?
Yes,
to be
and if
able
I
to set for
can-
the setback, because there's no way, the way it's currently constructed, you can actually put those buildings there in a parking lot.
So I'm going to use my finger to kind of draw, if I may.
Okay.
So part of the design of this master concept plan does include filling in a portion of the lake, because right now it's a square shape. The applicant does not own the entire lake, but he is going to reconfigure the lake as required by the Land Development Code, so it provides a more sinuous lake configuration. So he will be filling in a portion of the lake, providing more detention area for stormwater maintenance, and then providing the buildings and the parking and then the buffer.
Would it be cheaper in the long run just to not do the bonus density and just not do the extra height, just stay at 3 stories and use the current property without filling the lake in? Do you really need the extra bonus units?
With the economy the way that it is and site construction costs the way that it is, the bonus density is for affordable housing. It's meant for our workforce housing, for nurses, firemen, police officers, teachers, for those people. It's already been, and we meet all the criteria for
They're not
that.
going to live there, so that affordable housing thing doesn't work with me, because I'm worried about the residents on the west side where they have single-family homes. They're looking over an 8-foot wall at 4 stories of, like you said, affordable housing, but
So
what's your rent going to be capped at? What percentage of that are you going to use for a rent cap?
I don't have the rent cap in front of me.
So we're only going to do
That hasn't
going
been
to live in there.
discussed at this point.
But as far as zoning, we can't dictate based upon who's going to live there. It'd be discriminatory, but we can decide based upon land use and capable computational evidence that's going to deter the property I use next door. We can use that for denial, though. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so there's only one 4-story building, and that's part of the conditions set forth in the staff recommendation and the hearing examiner's recommendation. All the others are 3-story, and that is what is currently permitted in the RM10 zoning district. So again, the one 4-story building is next to commercial. It's not next to the boardwalk aisles to the west.
Any other questions for, at this time, for any other comments?
Well, could I ask the attorney a question maybe then?
Commissioner Hammond?
So then, Mr. Jacob, I guess if I'm hearing it right, then a denial doesn't mean it won't get built. A denial just means it gets built without conditions at that point, right?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, would the board like further discussion, or would someone like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to deny based upon computational evidence to ensure the property value of the residents to the west of this, and based upon the current proportion size of the property, it's not compatible.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second from Commissioner Sandelli. Are there objections to the motion?
I object.
I object. Okay, motion
Okay.
denied.
Motion fails.
So that motion fails. Okay, so then somebody has to make the motion. Then I'll just make the motion to approve the hearing examiner and staff recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the, from Commissioner Hammond, a second from Commissioner, I'm sorry. I'll start over. Recommendation to approve from Commissioner Hammond, a second from Commissioner Wayne. So the vote passes 3-2. Is that right? Motion approved, 3-2.
Okay.
Okay.
If that's, you want to call the vote, just to make sure.
Any objections?
Object.
Object. I apologize.
That's
Thank
okay.
you.
Thank you.
All right, motion passes 3-2.
Thank you for your time.
All right, could we, someone introduce the third item, please? Staff introduce third item.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Roberts with the Planning Section, Department of Community Development. This is the water supply plan update. It's a county-initiated text amendment, CPA 2023-00008. The requested amendment incorporates the work plan by reference into the Lee plan. It will amend Lee plan policies to maintain consistency with water use planning and amend the 10-year water supply development projects table. This amendment is required by Florida statute within 18 months after adoption of a regional water supply plan by the South Florida Water Management District. It will ensure consistency with water use planning and water supply. The transmittal hearing was held March 6, 2024. The vote passed 4-0 to transmit the amendments. During state agency review, we did receive comments from the South Florida Water Management District. They requested additional information be added to the work plan regarding regional issues, some clarification, water use demand calculations, and more detail regarding intergovernmental coordination. Those issues were added to the work plan, and a meeting was held with South Florida Water Management District on May 7th to discuss the responses. And staff also proposed an additional policy in response to the South Florida Water Management District comments. That was policy 54.1.16 to support the recently adopted water conservation ordinances. The recommendation, the transmittal was again passed on March 6, 2024 in a 4-0 vote. We did receive comments from the South Florida Water Management District, which were addressed in Attachment 1. Staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners adopt the proposed amendments as provided in Attachment 1. And staff stands by for questions.
Yes, anyone have any questions for staff at this time? Okay, no, I see no questions. Does the applicant wish to make a presentation?
It was county initiated.
County issue, I'm sorry, on my script here. Okay, I do have, I'll open up for public comment. I do have a comment card. Marcia Ellis.
Give me just a moment, I need to distribute for legal.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Good morning, Marcia Ellis for the record. I had previously participated in January when this came in front of the LPA, and I submitted comments which each of you have access to. However, upon seeking to review the updated packet and look at the comments that came back from the agencies, I have been unable to open that document so that I can review those comments. Clearly, from the length and the detail that I put into my comments, having the ability to see that follow-up is important. So up until now, in terms of my due process, so that I could add comments based on what the agencies provided, I haven't really been able, I haven't had the opportunity to do that. In the meantime, the concerns that I have brought forward, particularly at the beginning of my letter, in respect to pollution impacts on our water supply, have only intensified. Therefore, I did put together a selection of what I felt like were some of the important issues in respect to PFAS contamination of our public water supply and our domestic self-supply wells. I highlighted those and I added them to the packet that I'm submitting. Let me also say that, as my letter states, the coordination with our municipalities is important. And the Lower West Coast Water Supply 2022 that South Florida Water Management has put together did call for those shortages in the area of Cape Coral and also an area of concern out in Lehigh Acres. So there is a responsibility to legal existing users that the supply of the well that they are permitted remain active for them so they can use it, and that it be at the same quality that they enjoyed when they put in for that initial well. What I have not heard, and I know that this has occurred in other parts of the county, for instance in Buckingham, there are well replacement funds, and there are ways to assist these folks who are having to take on the enormous expense of taking their wells deeper. So we have an obligation to take this very seriously. I'd requested that there be public meetings and that folks and stakeholders in the community give it the attention that it very much deserves. We're rolling into a similar process with looking at the adoption of HB 1379. And again, I ask that there be workshops and there be involvement from the stakeholders on these important issues. We are exceeding our carrying capacity, and we have an obligation to legal existing users. Please, let's use these resources responsibly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ellis. Does anyone else wish to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, I will close public comment. I will open up for board discussion. Any questions or for staff or anything at this time? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll move approval of the staff recommendation.
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion to approve from Commissioner Hammond, a second from Commissioner Wayne. Any further discussion? Any objections? Okay, seeing none, motion moves 5-0 unanimous. There are no fourth item. Is there any further business in front of us? I see none. Okay. Hearing is